Hi. In this video, I want to teach you the path of anxiety and how you have the option to go on a different path when suffering would be useless to you. Okay, now, all anxiety is not bad. You have an anxious response for very good reasons. It's to keep you safe. You need it. You want your body to react like that. If you're ever in a position, you know that there is in fact something to be terrified of, something to be scared of. You want your body to react like that. So it's not a bad thing. We never ever want to close off anxiety altogether. Okay? What we do want is to interrupt it when it's no use to us and we want to go a different way. Yes? Anxiety is quite prevalent now, and it's purely that we haven't been taught this kind of thinking, this kind of interruption, and I'm going to do it in this video today. Okay, this is a practice. This isn't something that you can do once and it'll last forever. This is something you must get into the habit of doing. If you have anxiety quite frequently, the faster this will work for you, because you'll have an option to put this into practice. Okay, below this video you'll find an audio. There's a short one which is to remind you of this practice. Okay, rather than having to watch the video over and over again, which you can watch it as much as you want, but the audio is there to remind you. There's also a longer hypnotherapy audio to deprogram long term any subconscious anxiety that you have in there. Okay, so when we take in information, okay, when it's received through our senses, that goes to our prefrontal cortex, okay, and that's the part of your brain that it determines what has to happen with the information you're taking in. Okay, now it can be unfortunate that depending on what we say to ourselves, now you cannot realise that you're doing this, but we're constantly communicating with ourselves. Okay, so if we get something that triggers our anxiety, it comes into our mind and we immediately determine that we are helpless to it. We can't do anything. Your brain will show you the worst case scenario and it will begin to respond by that. Okay, the prefrontal cortex sends that to a bit of your brain known as the amygdala. Okay, that's part of your limbic system. And its entire thing is to fire up your body in readiness for fight or flight response. Okay, so your breathing will shorten. You'll get chemicals pumped into your bloodstream. You'll start to feel, tingling in your hands and your arms. And the entire point of that is you need that boost to run fast, to get away, or you need that boost to fight whatever it is in front of you. Okay, now, if your anxiety has been brought on by something like going to work or, getting an illness or something like that, then that's not the most ideal. There's nothing to fight. There's nothing that you can run away from. Yes? So, this is where we need to learn to interrupt, okay? Usually with anxiety, okay, because we've been taught to try and reject negativity, okay, we can immediately start to feel the beginnings of anxiety and we can immediately go to no and try to reject that. Okay, that's another reason that our brain, the prefrontal cortex, will send it to the amygdala, is because we are taking that as being involuntary confrontation. Okay, it's something we don't want and all we want to do is get rid of it. Yeah, that can be the reason that it feels so, like everything's speeding up, it's coming, you can't control it, things like that, because it's involuntary. Part of this interrupt technique, okay, is making that voluntary. Now, that seems like a counterintuitive, but it's actually really simple, and it's simply a case of feeling the anxiety, and rather than immediately going, I'm helpless, I don't want that, I want it to go away, change that to, this is a challenge. I need to figure out the best response to this, okay? Now, what that does, that sends information from your prefrontal cortex, which is no longer decided that it's helpless, okay? It figures that you want different options, different responses. So it sends that information to your anterior cingulate cortex, okay? Just a different part of your brain. But it's the part of your brain that can problem solve. It's the part that can look back and forward. And it's the one where you know, it'll make connections that you haven't already made. It will actually apply thought. Okay, now make that interruption. Tell yourself, you know, we've arrived at a challenge, but I'm going to figure out whatever it is. Okay. As I said earlier, once we start to go into anxiety, okay, our body starts to respond. Okay, you will notice one of the biggest things. Okay, your breathing will have shortened. Yeah, and to be honest, most of us breathe in our chest constantly anyway. Okay, the most healthy way to breathe is down into our belly properly. And even when I've seen clients who have said to them, take a deep breath, they're still only deep breathing into their chest. Okay, so while you've interrupted that, okay, and it's went to a different part of your brain, and start to slow down your breathing, but start to deep breathe as well. Breathe all the way into your belly until the point where you actually see your belly expand, and then release. Try to slow down, okay? Being aware constantly of what you are telling yourself in your head, okay? It can be, this is why there is a longer term hypnosis audio included in this course, okay? Anxiety is built up because we tell ourselves over and over and over again, that's scary, I don't want it, I don't know what to do. And we want to get out of the habit of that, okay? So as you've allowed the anxiety, you know, you're voluntarily accepting it while responding to it rather than reacting with panic or with more worry, okay? Let yourself breathe, okay? Keep telling yourself, keep letting the thoughts in your mind go to, this is a challenge. And every moment I get to decide what to do for the best, you know? Your brain, when it throws the worst case scenario at you, it can make you feel like you've got to deal with everything all in the same moment, okay? But in every moment, you control your entire body, okay? You can step away from anything. You can move back from anything. You can, you know, there's lots of things you can do. You're always in control of you, okay? Keep reminding yourself of that while belly breathing, okay? And let that be your new practice, okay? This builds neural pathways into your brain, where your brain will actually realise we're not helpless when anything like this happens. We do have other options. And you'll be surprised to find that in these times, you're actually much more capable than you've previously been telling yourself. It's bringing consciousness to what you're saying in that gap. Hear what you're saying to you, which it's normally your brain throwing the worst case scenario at you. Like, that's going to be terrible and the worst thing's going to happen and, you know, everything's going to go to crap. And it's not necessarily true. It's definitely not the only option. And we want to be redirecting that to the part of our brain which will accept it as a challenge and be like, well, you know, this has come up, and I have to learn to respond to that now. And that quite simply, because again, we don't want to deprogram our anxiety altogether. We will need that in some situations. If there's a car barreling along the road towards you, you want to have an anxious response that will give you the momentum to get out of the way of that car. We don't want to shut it down, but neither do we want to manage it, where we just push it under the carpet and hope that a panic attack doesn't take us out one day. There is a happy medium, okay? You can interrupt completely safely, because in a scenario where you can interrupt and there is in fact something going on, you want your anxious response, okay? So this is the getting back to optimum. This is getting out of the natural aim towards anxiety, okay? There is absolutely training we can do in our mind, and this is part of it. This is the very first part, is to, if anxiety is just taken to the amygdala every time it happens, okay, that's why we end up with panic attacks for simple things like going to the shops, okay? We must learn to interrupt that, and that's a small part of our brain. We want to open up the rest of our capability, which is the rest of our brain, and that's why we want to redirect it to this part. So I don't want to make this video too long. I want to keep it that simple, okay? Notice the anxiety when it comes up, okay? Accept it rather than trying to reject it, because trying to fight it off actually makes it worse. That just tells your brain, yep, there's definitely something wrong here, we don't want this. Your brain will get a wee bit more into the amygdala, and that's when panic attacks come on, okay? Taking it on, letting it be, and accepting that it's a challenge, and you're going to use your mind. You're going to figure out the best ways to be in every moment. You don't have to have all the answers at once. You just need to take it moment by moment, doing the best, whatever that is, at each point, okay? And let your mind problem solve. Don't shut yourself off by saying, I don't know what to do, this is awful, I don't want this, get away from here, because that's actually setting off your anxious response to get you away from that. That's not what we want to do, okay? So let that become your practice, okay? Let that become your practice. Belly breathe, okay? That tells your entire nervous system that you're safe, okay? When we're breathing in our chest, our nervous system's getting no communication from us, so it believes anything that the mind sends down, okay? So if it's in anxiety, your nervous system responds like that, okay? If you are belly breathing, despite the beginning feelings of anxiety, then your nervous system is getting the message that no, it's okay, we're belly breathing, we're able to focus, obviously everything's safe. You almost completely cut out your chances of having a panic attack, okay? And doing this over and over again retrains your entire response to anxiety, okay? Rather than collapsing into being controlled by the chemicals and the emotions, okay? This is you learning to utilise your mind, utilise your emotions and point them in a better direction, okay? It's making you more responsive rather than reactive, okay? Practice this. Keep coming back to the audios. Listen to the hypnosis audio 4 times a week to really start to deprogram that, to really start changing how you see, whatever pictures come into your mind when you get anxiety. And you will find that your anxiety drops until it's completely off the scale and you only have it as it was ever intended, to be useful to you whenever you are in danger. So let me know how this worked for you. It absolutely does, but you do have to practice it, okay? You have to practice this whenever it comes up, and you will find that you'll feel much, much better about things and you won't worry half as much. Okay, thank you.